Amen. Thank you. Let's pray. Gracious God, I pray that your Spirit would fill this space, fill us up, inspire us, and shape us by what we hear, and then send us out to serve you. Amen. So this past Tuesday, we had Hurricane Nicholas pass through, and everyone was out of school, out of work. We were all at home. I imagine you were as well. So Whitney and I were both working from home, and we had Mary Holland, she's our 3.5-year-old, with us, and we were trying to keep her entertained and do work. I was sitting on the couch at one point, had my laptop in my lap, and I was actually working on this sermon, which is about setting an example, and she is playing with Peppa Pig. She had these two figurines. She's really into Peppa Pig these days, and so she has them kind of talking to each other, and all of a sudden I tune into what she's saying, and I hear her with one figurine say to the other, "No, I'm on my computer. Can't you see I'm working? Please don't talk to me. This is important." And I looked at my husband like, "Can you believe you say that in front of her?" Oh, y'all, like, right? I mean, children are sponges. They pick up everything. So today we're going to talk about what it is we actually want them to be picking up. Last week we talked about, as Tom mentioned earlier, this idea of setting our values, of gaining clarity around what it is that we believe as people of faith, what our values reflect. And so he talked about how we have to be really intentional in setting these values. It's not like you have a self-driving car and you just get in and it goes. We have to keep our hands on the wheel. We have to press the gas. We have to press the brakes. Like, we have to really be intentional. And then we have to differentiate ourselves. When we decide what values we're going to have individually, what values we're going to have as a family, we look around at the people around us and we don't just meld with them. We don't say, well, so-and-so's doing this, so I'm going to do it too. No, we set values that are intentional and distinctive for our families. And that's all well and good. That is a great first step, setting these values, but we have to put meat to them. We have to actually do something about it. We have to put them into action. And it's not enough just to have them be something that we know in our hearts and that we think about in our minds, but they have to be something that really become a part of the way that we live, and the way that we live out in the world. Why is that important? We're going to look at our scripture today for a minute to talk about why that's important. Today's text is one of those ones that I think can give us as Christians a little bit of trouble, as Bible readers that try to maybe reconcile everything, because we know that as Christians, we are saved by faith, right? That's what, we're not like the Old Testament people. We're not like the Jews. We don't have to keep kosher and obey certain holidays and observe things and do all of the works that are prescribed by the law in order to be saved. No, Paul tells us in Romans 3:28, Paul says, we hold that a person is justified by faith apart from works as prescribed by the law. But then you heard Michelle, and she read these words from James earlier. In verse 18, she says, I can already hear one of you agreeing by saying, sounds good. You take care of the faiths department, I'll take care of the works department. Not so fast. You can no more show me your works apart from your faith than I can show you my faith apart from my works. And in verse 24, James says, is it not evident that a person is made right with God, not by a barren faith, but by a faith fruitful in works? Verse 18 tells us we can't have a faith apart from works, but verse 24 tells us why. And it's because barren faith does not produce works. There is no such thing as a fruitful, healthy faith that does not produce works. Let me say that again. There is no such thing as a fruitful, healthy faith that doesn't produce works. It is just a byproduct of our faith. Our works are not something that are done of our own will or our own strength, that we come up with them on our own, and all of a sudden, even if our faith is barren, we're doing all these great works. No, our works are the product of our healthy faith. And so if we're going to have the kind of faith that changes our households, if we're going to have the kind of faith that changes the world around us, it is one that produces works. It is one that is lived out, that other people can see. Because we know that's the truth, right? Other people see what we do all of the time. We are on display 24/7, whether it is our barren faith on display or our fruitful faith. Other folks are watching us. Our kids, our household is watching us. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear anything you're saying." I think for those of us with kids at home, we think of that in a really practical way. We think, gosh, I'm not so worried that they aren't listening to what I'm saying. I'm really worried they're watching what I'm doing. We know that do as I say, not as I do adage, that doesn't actually work. Because every time we do something, every time we say something, every time we act on something, every time we avoid something, we are setting an example. We are living out our faith, whether it is barren or healthy, in a way that our kids are watching. It's impacting them. They learn, humans learn in general by watching. We have something in our brains called mirror neurons, and these are the kind of neurons that take in information by observing it and watching it and then replicating it. So if you've ever noticed when people start hanging out together a lot, they kind of start mimicking each other in ways, or like they start to use the same gestures. They maybe start to even dress alike because they're mirroring one another subconsciously. This is how infants actually learn language skills. Like they don't learn language skills because they're sitting in a classroom and they're being taught it. They learn it by mimicking us. We babble at them, they babble at us. When you have young kids like preschoolers, this is how they learn the workings of an interpersonal relationship. You know, no one sits down with a 3-year-old and is like, I'm going to tell you how your relationship with your classmates should go, right? They watch how we act. Are we sharing with other people? Are we kind? And then they mimic that. They live that out. And so what we do, the way that we live out our faith really matters because people are watching it. And because it's easier to learn than from verbal lessons. I mean, there are things I will tell you as the parent of a 3.5-year-old that we have to actually sit down and teach our child. You know, we have to take the time to teach her how to put dishes in the dishwasher and how to ride her scooter and how to share and how to tie her shoe and all of that thing. But there's so many things that she's picking up. People just pick up, kids pick up by just watching us. My mom was in town about a week ago, and she hadn't seen her daughter in a while, and so, you know, they change a lot at this age. And so my mom said to us, like all day, the first day she was there, she was like, oh, I can't believe she's doing this. Oh, it's so funny that she's doing this. She's saying this. And Whitney and I were just kind of like, we didn't even notice that. And then we were sitting at dinner that night, and Whitney said something, and my mom was like, it's you. That's why she's doing this. Y'all do this, you know. She's mimicking y'all. And fortunately, it was a good thing, right? And so we were kind of like, oh, score. We don't even have to teach her that. She's just going to learn it by watching us. How convenient is that? Right? But for every good thing that a child, that somebody else around you learns by watching you, they're just as likely to emulate and to learn the bad things. We know these statistics, but for children that are raised in a household where one parent abuses the other, they are 6 times more likely to abuse their own spouse whenever they get married. And if they themselves are abused, they are 12 times more likely to abuse their children or their spouse. Here's an example that I think probably hits really close to home for a lot of us. Have you been to a Little League game recently of any sort with a child, with grandchildren? A lot of these fields now have signs that are posted that say Parent Code of Conduct. Let me tell you some of the things they say. I will not ridicule anyone involved in a youth sporting event. I will not encourage violence with verbal or physical threats, such as get 'em. I will not curse. I will not fight with the officials, parents, or other children. This is one of those things that like has to exist, like the McDonald's caution hot coffee thing. Like somebody needed this, right? I mean, when our kids see us behave in this way, when they see parents engage in that type of behavior, it becomes familiar. And the thing that is familiar becomes the path that we trod. It becomes the easy thing. It's the works that set an example for us that all of a sudden we find ourselves following. There's a guy named Daniel Goleman that wrote a book that I'd commend to you called Social Intelligence. It was written like 15 years ago, but many of you probably read it. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for a while, and he's a psychiatrist, and so he wrote about how our behaviors are shaped by our social settings, by the people around us. And in it, he tells a story of this guy named Milton Erickson. And Milton Erickson is a hypnotherapist. And even at a young age, he was really fascinated by other folks' behavior and how our behavior is controlled, how our behavior is shaped. And so when Milton Erickson was in middle school, one time he woke up early in the morning and there'd been a blizzard or a huge snowstorm. It was a blanket of snow everywhere. And so he decided he would go to school early. And he walked to school and he took a really weird path. He was trudging through the snow. He was the first one. And so he zigged and he zagged and he went kind of around this big tree and he took a circular path. And he got to the end of the path and he sat at the entrance of school and he watched his path. And he watched all of the students behind him take that same path. They zigged and they zagged and they went around the tree. And these are students that walk to school every day and they knew where the sidewalk was. And they still took this path because it had already been made for them. And every student that meandered down this path made it wider and deeper and made it more of the path that people wanted to choose. Right? There is an obvious correlation here that our kids are going to take the path that we carve out for them. The way that we live out our faith, our works, again, whether it's from healthy faith or barren faith, whatever we're doing, is going to make an impression on them, and they are going to live that out as well. And so I wanted to talk today about 3 things that our kids need from us, that our kids need to see from us, the way in which we can live out our faith in front of them. Before I do that, I just want to say one thing, which is it is never too early and it is never too late to start this. You might be out there sitting there thinking, oh, well, I have a 5-year-old. I'm so glad Katie's preaching this. It is convenient for me. I have these kids at home. You might be out there thinking, I have a 35-year-old that doesn't live with me. It doesn't matter because the way in which you live your faith out has an effect. They see this at any age. The people around you in your household, your spouse, your coworkers, other folks are affected by this. So it doesn't matter how early or late it is. And then just one other thing, which is your kids are not expecting you to be perfect parents. They want you to be, in fact, spiritual parenting, godly parenting is not that it's perfect, it is holy, right? There's a difference there. Holy means set apart. You are to be set apart. You are to be different than the world. Your parenting should not look like the rest of the world. The way that you live, the way that your works, those things that are produced from your faith, they shouldn't look like what the rest of the world does. In 1 Peter, he says, he's quoting Leviticus here, and so he's quoting God, and he says, be holy, for I am holy. Be set apart, for I am set apart. Be different, for I am different, right? We are to be that representative of God in the world. We don't look like the rest of the world. We are to look like God. If any of you have ever been to the Alamo, to take the official tour of the Alamo, there is a place right when you walk in on the inside of the wall that you walk by, there is just a wall of pictures, of photographs of the men that had died, that fought and died at the Alamo. And there's Davy Crockett and there's, everybody else. And one of them, there's a picture and it says under it, this is the nephew of James Bondman. James Bondman never had a photograph taken of him during his life or a painting made of him, but his nephew bears a great resemblance to him, and so he is here as a representative of his uncle. I think about that in the way in which we are meant to be in this world. We are representatives of God, right? There's not a picture of God. People don't look at us and immediately see like that is God, but they see this is a representative. The way you live out your life and your faith in front of your kids especially is representative of God. Okay, so let me tell you the 3 things that I think our kids need. The first thing is that our kids really need to know that we love God above all else. In the Jewish faith, there is a confession of faith that all Jews make. They have made it for ever since the time of Deuteronomy through now. It's called the Shema, and it is found in Deuteronomy 6. And they say, the Lord our God is one. And then they are instructed about where and how to make this confession. And it says you put it on your doorpost and you say it when you're coming and going. And then it says you also make it with your children when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. When you sit and when you walk and when you lie down and when you get up. You make the confession all of the time, right? We talked about this. Our lives are on display 24 hours a day. Our kids need to see 24 hours a day that the most important thing in our life is how much we love God. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir because y'all are here. Y'all are the people that are here, but I want to emphasize, I think it's important for us to remember that we can't just treat our faith and the way our children's faith grows as this kind of dry cleaner model, where we drop them off at Sunday school and student ministries, and then we pick them up and we just hope they're clean, and we can just take them home and start over next week, right? I mean, a number of years ago, I'm sure many of you remember this, we did a sermon series here called Sticky Faith, and we talked a lot about this idea of how to get faith to stick in the next generation, in our kids. And one of the things that we learned is that it has to be a two-way street. We can't just impart faith onto our kids. They have to actually see how it affects us and how important it is to us as well. And so instead of, I have this experience where we'll pick up Mary Helen from Sunday school and we say, oh, what'd you learn today? And she's like, I don't know. And we said, what'd you do? And she says, we ate crackers. And it's like, what did you do for an hour? But instead of just leaving it at that, what would be helpful is if she knew how important our faith was to us if we were talking about it. So we say, hey, what a great morning at church. In our Sunday school class, this is what we learned. And in the sermon, this is what we heard. Hey, what did you learn? And it's not magic. She's not immediately going to just start babbling at us. But the truth of the matter is she would understand that our faith is really important to us. And it might help her to see how her faith, to connect those dots, how important her faith is to her as well. Our kids don't need us to be spiritual giants. They aren't looking for parents that have memorized the whole Bible, that know everything. They're looking for parents who are trying to genuinely live after the teachings and the example of Jesus, who are genuinely in love with God. That's what they're looking for. So that's the first thing. Second thing our kids need is they need to see us living out our faith by practicing habits and disciplines that help us grow closer to God. Faith is not a magical thing, right? You don't just become a Christian, profess your faith in Christ, and then all of a sudden have this perfect prayer life and everything is good all the time, right? We have to actually practice these disciplines to grow closer to God. And when we do that, we develop the type of faith that is lived out in works. Here at St. Luke's, every year, usually in January, we give Bibles to all of our third graders. And they all sit in these pews, and Dr. Pace says to them, this book is going to change your life. And he says, I hope you will read it, and I hope you will take it places with you, and I hope that you will really develop a relationship with it, because this book is so important. And I think that's great. I think it does. I think that is really important for them to hear. But I would posit that I think it's more important for them to see you reading it. It is more important that they know how important the Bible is to you, and that you value it, and that they haven't just heard it from somebody and then been given this gift that they don't know what to do with, but that you teach them about it. Meredith Perkins is one of our church members who told me something a number of years ago that really impacted me, which is that she's in a lunchtime Bible study. And so she had a young son at the time, and one day he started asking her about her Bible study. And she thought that was interesting because he's in school when she goes. She goes from her office, and then she just goes straight to church and comes back. And she'd never really talked about it with him. But she realized he knew she was doing it because, she would have her Bible in her car and she'd read it when she had free time. Or she'd read it in the evenings. And he picked up on that. And even though she never spoke to him about it, he realized it was important to her. And it became important to him as well. Right? That is true of all of the disciplines that we practice to grow closer to Jesus. When our kids see us do them, when our spouses, when the people we live with, when our colleagues and coworkers, anyone in our lives see us practice these disciplines, it makes an impact on them. It helps their own faith deepen because they want to practice the disciplines. And these disciplines are not good just on their, it's not like, oh, okay, great, you do them so that your kids will do them. You do them because they change us, right? They deepen our faith so that we become healthy and vibrant people who produce the works that James was talking about. So that's the second thing that our kids need from us. And the third thing is hard. They need us to model confession and repentance. They need us to be humble and to show them what to do when we make mistakes. Our kids know that we are not perfect. They live with us, so they clearly know we are not perfect, you know? Anyone that lives with you knows that you're not perfect. What they may not know is what to do when they make mistakes, what their next step should be when they mess up. And so what they need to see from us is that it's okay to humble ourselves and say, I messed up, and to ask for forgiveness, and to admit where we went wrong, and to say, I'm going to have to change my ways and I'm going to work on it. They need to see humility from us so that they can be humble as well. I wonder how many of your parents apologized to you when you were growing up. I wonder how many of you experienced that when your parents made a mistake. And how meaningful, if they never did it, how meaningful would that have been if they had apologized to you? Because, they knew they made a mistake. You knew it. Everyone knows it when it happens. And so our kids need to see us model that humility. And then when they do it, when they become humble enough to admit their own mistakes, to apologize, they need us to forgive them in a way that reflects God's mercy. They need to get that taste of what God has for them, of the mercy of God from us. When we show our kids that we love God more than anything, when we practice these disciplines that get us closer to a healthy and vibrant faith that produces works, when we are humble enough to admit our mistakes and then to ask for forgiveness and then offer forgiveness when it's our opportunity to do so, we are making an incremental change in each of our households. Whether your household is 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, whether it's a tiny household or a big one, all of those incremental changes make a sea change. They, as Joshua says, when our household serves the Lord, all of these little households serving the Lord together are what change the entire world for God's kingdom. Let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for putting us in our households, the exact one that we are in right now. And we pray that you would help us in that space and in that group of people in our family and our community, that you would help us to live out our faith in a way that is undeniable, that our works would reflect you and would build your kingdom. God, we love you and we offer this prayer in your name. Amen.